November 26, 1922. Howard Carter peers through a small hole into a tomb that's been sealed for over 3,000 years. Behind him, Lord Carnarvon asks, "Can you see anything?" Carter's response becomes legendary. Yes, wonderful things. But within months, Lord Carnarvon is dead. Then another member of the team. Then another. And another. 22 people connected to the tomb's opening would die under mysterious circumstances. Some suddenly. Some violently. Some inexplicably. Newspapers screamed of an ancient curse. Death shall come on swift wings to him who disturbs the peace of the king. But was it real? Or the greatest coincidence in archaeological history? Welcome to Pharaoh's legacy. Today, we're investigating whether ancient Egypt's most famous curse actually exists. The Curse of Tutankhamun. Perhaps the most famous supernatural legend of the 20th century. A story that's captivated the world for over 100 years. It has everything. Ancient tombs, fabulous treasures, mysterious deaths, warnings from beyond the grave. Countless books have been written about it. Dozens of documentaries produced. Hollywood made movies. The curse became part of popular culture. But is any of it true? Did the ancient Egyptians really curse their tombs? Were the deaths truly mysterious? Or is this elaborate myth built on coincidence, sensationalism, and media manipulation? 22 deaths. That's the number most commonly cited. 22 people connected to the tomb's discovery, all dead within a decade. The odds of that being random? Astronomical, some say. But here's what's rarely mentioned. Dozens more people entered the tomb and lived long, healthy lives. Howard Carter himself, the man who opened the tomb, died naturally at age 64, 17 years after the discovery. Today, we have tools Carter never dreamed of. We can test for toxins, analyze mummy tissue, study ancient preservation methods. We can examine the deaths forensically, medically, statistically. We also understand ancient Egyptian beliefs better. We've translated thousands of curse texts. We know what the Egyptians feared, how they protected their dead. So today, we're going to examine everything. The history, the deaths, the evidence, the science, the statistics, the ancient practices. And we're going to answer, once and for all, was the curse of Tutankhamun real? Or is it the greatest hoax in archaeological history? This is the truth about the curse. To understand the curse, we need to understand the discovery. Because the context matters. The people involved, the circumstances, the times. Howard Carter, born 1874 in London, artist turned archaeologist, methodical, obsessive, brilliant. By 1914, he'd worked in Egypt for over 2 decades. George Herbert, 5th Earl of Carnarvon, wealthy British aristocrat, car enthusiast who'd suffered serious injuries in an automobile accident. Doctors recommended Egypt's warm, dry climate for recovery. In 1907, they formed a partnership. Carnarvon would fund excavations. Carter would lead them. Their target, the Valley of the Kings. Their goal, undiscovered royal tombs. For 15 years they found almost nothing. Minor discoveries, fragments, but no intact royal tomb. By 1922, Carnarvon was ready to quit. Carter convinced him to fund one final season, November 4th, 1922. Carter's workers were clearing debris near the tomb of Ramses VI. A waterboy's donkey stepped on something, stone beneath sand. Carter ordered excavation. Steps appeared, leading down, cut into bedrock. 12 steps, 13, 14, 16 steps to a sealed doorway, and on the door, pressed into ancient plaster, the royal cartouche, the name, Tutankhamun. Carter sent the famous telegram. At last have made wonderful discovery in valley, a magnificent tomb with seals intact. Recovered same for your arrival. Congratulations. Carnarvon rushed from England. Arrived November 23rd. Together, they prepared to open the tomb. November 26th, 1922. Carter made a small hole in the door, held up a candle, peered inside. Hot air rushed out, making the candle flicker. In the wavering light, Carter saw everything. Gold, statues, furniture, chariots, a room filled with treasures. Carnarvon, unable to see. Can you see anything? Carter, barely able to speak. Yes, wonderful things. They'd found it. An intact Pharaoh's tomb, the first ever discovered. 3,000 years of history, sealed and waiting. But this was just the antechamber. Beyond lay more chambers. An annex filled with objects. A burial chamber with massive golden shrines. A treasury with Tutankhamun's canopic shrine. And inside the shrines and coffins, the mummy of the boy king himself, face covered by the most spectacular golden mask ever created. News spread worldwide. Reporters flooded the Valley of the Kings. The discovery became an international sensation. Every artifact was photographed, every step documented. The Times of London had exclusive rights, frustrating other papers who wanted the story. The world became obsessed with Egypt, with Tutankhamun, with the treasures. Tutmania swept the globe. But alongside the fascination, something else was building. Rumors, whispers, stories of warnings ignored, of ancient curses disturbed. February 16th, 1923. Carter officially opened the sealed burial chamber in front of invited guests. Egyptian officials, archaeologists, dignitaries. Inside, they found massive golden shrines, one nested inside another, filling nearly the entire room. It would take months to dismantle and document them all. Inside the innermost shrine, a quartzite sarcophagus. Inside that, 3 nested coffins. Inside those, the mummy of Tutankhamun. The full excavation would take nearly a decade. Cataloguing, photographing, preserving thousands of objects. The most meticulous archaeological project ever undertaken. But the curse, if it existed, wasn't waiting for the excavation to finish. The deaths were about to begin. The first death came just months after the tomb was opened, and it was the most shocking one possible. March 1923. Lord Carnarvon was still in Egypt, celebrating the discovery he'd funded. The tomb had made him world famous. Then, a mosquito bite. On his left cheek. Trivial. Annoying. Nothing more. But while shaving, Carnarvon accidentally cut the bite open. In 1923, Egypt, before antibiotics. This was dangerous. The wound became infected. Blood poisoning developed. He developed pneumonia. His condition deteriorated rapidly. On April 5, 1923, at 1:55 a.m. in Cairo's Continental Hotel, Lord Carnarvon died. He was 56 years old, less than 5 months after the tomb was opened. Legend says that at the exact moment of his death, all the lights in Cairo went out. Back in England, Carnarvon's dog howled and dropped dead at the same moment. The newspapers went wild. Death from curse of Pharaoh. Revenge of Tutankhamun. Ancient curse claims first victim. Novelist Marie Corelli, who'd written about Egyptian curses, claimed she'd predicted this. She said ancient texts warned that dire punishment would follow anyone who broke into sealed tombs. The public was fascinated and terrified. Had Carnarvon been killed by ancient magic? Was everyone who entered the tomb doomed? Howard Carter dismissed it as nonsense. Superstition. Carnarvon died of infection, not curses. But the narrative was too powerful to stop. July 1923. Prince Ali Kamel Fahmy Bey, Egyptian royalty who'd visited the tomb, was shot and killed by his wife in London's Savoy Hotel. A domestic dispute, a troubled marriage, a clear case of murder that had nothing to do with curses. But the press added him to the curse victims list. After all, he'd entered the tomb, and now he was dead. Connection made. Arthur Mace, American archaeologist, Carter's assistant. He'd helped open the burial chamber's sealed door. In 1923, while still working on the tomb, Mace began experiencing exhaustion and weakness. His health deteriorated mysteriously. He collapsed in 1924, fell into a coma, died in 1928 at age 54, never having fully recovered. The cause? Never definitively determined. Arsenic poisoning was suspected, or perhaps tuberculosis, or something else entirely. Curse believers point to Mace as one of the strongest cases. A healthy man who helped open the tomb, dead within years. Doctors baffled. George J. Gould, wealthy American financier, friend of Carnarvon, visited the tomb in 1923. Shortly after visiting, he developed a high fever in Egypt. Pneumonia followed. He died in May 1923, just weeks after his visit. Age 58. Cause listed as pneumonia following a fever contracted in Egypt. Another visitor. Another death. The list was growing. Sir Archibald Douglas Reed, distinguished British radiologist. He X-rayed Tutankhamun's mummy in 1923. Fell mysteriously ill shortly after. Died in 1924. The symptoms were vague. The cause unclear. Some speculated radiation poisoning from the X-ray equipment. Others saw curse. The deaths continued, one after another after another. Sir Lee Stack, Governor-General of Sudan, who visited the tomb, assassinated 1924. Richard Bethel, Carter's secretary who catalogued the tomb, found dead in his bed, 1929, age 35. Bethel's father, Lord Westbury, jumped to his death from his 7th-floor apartment, 1930. Aubrey Herbert, Carnarvon's half-brother who'd been present at the opening, died 1923 of blood poisoning. Captain Richard Adamson, who'd guarded the tomb, wife died suddenly. He survived, but his entire family suffered deaths. The media kept count. With each death, the curse seemed more credible, the statistics more damning, the pattern more undeniable. By the late 1920s, the curse was international news. Some museums refused to accept artifacts from Tutankhamun's tomb. Shipping companies hesitated to transport them. When exhibits toured, people came partly out of fascination, partly out of fear. Would viewing the artifacts bring the curse upon them? Howard Carter received letters warning him to stop disturbing the tomb. Threats against his life. Prophecies of his doom. Carter ignored it all. He continued excavating, cataloguing, preserving. The work was too important. The discovery too significant. By 1930, various sources claimed between 12 and 22 people connected to the tomb had died under mysterious circumstances. The probability of this being coincidence? According to cursed believers, virtually impossible. But there's another side to this story, a side the cursed believers rarely mention: the survivors. Howard Carter opened the tomb. He spent more time inside than anyone. He handled the mummy. He opened the coffins. If anyone should have been cursed, it was him. Carter died in 1939 at age 64, 17 years after the discovery, of lymphoma, a natural death at a reasonable age for the era. And Carter wasn't alone. Consider who else entered the tomb and lived. Dr. Douglas Derry performed the autopsy on Tutankhamun's mummy, lived to 87. Harry Burton, expedition photographer who documented everything, lived to 77. Sir Alan Gardner, Egyptologist who studied the tomb's inscriptions, lived to 84. Lady Evelyn Herbert, Carnarvon's daughter, one of the first to enter, lived to 79. Dr. Saleh Bey Hamdi, Egyptian doctor who X-rayed the mummy, lived into his 70s. In fact, of all the people present at the tomb's opening, most lived to old age. The death rate among tomb entrants was no higher than the general population. In 1934, a study analysed the survival rates of everyone connected to the tomb. The conclusion: no unusual mortality rate. Remember, this was the 1920s and 1930s. Average life expectancy was much lower. People died younger from infections that today's antibiotics would cure easily. The deaths that seemed mysterious then were often just normal for the time. Pneumonia, infections, diseases we barely worry about today. Let's look at each cursed death skeptically. Lord Carnarvon died of blood poisoning from an infected mosquito bite. In 1923, before antibiotics, this was a common cause of death. He was also in poor health before Egypt, having never fully recovered from his car accident. Prince Ali, shot by his wife in a domestic dispute. Nothing mysterious, nothing curse-related, purely murder. Arthur Mace. His death is more puzzling, but he had been in poor health before the tomb was opened. He'd complained of weakness and exhaustion for years. The tomb work may have simply stressed an already compromised system. George Gould. Pneumonia after visiting Egypt. But Gould visited in 1923 when Egypt had numerous health hazards for Western visitors. Bad water, disease, heat stress. His death, while sad, wasn't particularly mysterious. Richard Bethel, found dead in bed at 35, cause listed as circulatory collapse. Sounds mysterious, but Bethel was a heavy drinker and smoker. Heart problems weren't unusual. Lord Westbury. Bethel's father jumped from a window after his son's death. Suicide from grief, not curse. Here's what really happened. The curse was a media creation. The Times had exclusive rights to the tomb story. Other newspapers were furious. They needed an angle, a story to compete. The curse became that story. Every death, no matter how tenuous the connection, got linked to Tutankhamun. Coincidence became pattern. Natural causes became mystery. Marie Corelli, the novelist, fueled the fire. She wrote that ancient texts warned of curses, though she could never produce these texts. The public believed her because they wanted to. Howard Carter said it best: "All sane people should dismiss such inventions with contempt." Skeptics are right about the media manipulation, but there's something they often ignore. Ancient Egyptians did curse their tombs, not at Tutankhamun's tomb, but at others throughout Egypt. Archaeologists have found curse inscriptions. Real ones, carved in stone. "As for anyone who shall enter this tomb in his impurity, I shall seize him like a bird. Fear of me shall enter into him. As for any man who shall destroy these, it is the god Thoth who shall destroy him. He shall be miserable and persecuted." These weren't fictional. Ancient Egyptians genuinely believed in cursing tomb robbers. They wanted to protect their dead. They used magic, spells, and threats. But was there one at Tutankhamun's tomb specifically? Here's the critical question. Was there actually a curse inscription in Tutankhamun's tomb? Howard Carter documented everything. Every hieroglyph, every inscription, every mark on every wall. In his published records, spanning years of work, he never mentioned finding a curse. The curse that newspapers quoted: "Death shall come on swift wings to him who disturbs the peace of the king." Where did it come from? It's not found anywhere in Tutankhamun's tomb. Not on the walls, not on the sarcophagus, not on any of the thousands of objects. The closest thing ever found was on a mud brick stamp from the tomb's entrance. It mentioned Anubis repelling tomb intruders. But it wasn't a curse. It was a standard protective formula. The dramatic curse quote? Invented. Probably by journalists, certainly not by ancient Egyptians. But there's a twist. Egyptologist Alan Gardner, who translated many tomb inscriptions, mentioned seeing a clay tablet with a protective spell. According to some accounts, it read, "I am the one who prevents the sand from choking the secret chamber. I am for the protection of the deceased." This tablet, if it existed, disappeared from records. Carter never catalogued it officially. No photograph exists. No one else saw it. Some believe Carter found it and deliberately didn't publish it, fearing it would fuel curse hysteria and disrupt his work. Others think it never existed, and Gardner either misremembered or was himself a victim of curse mythology. We'll probably never know the truth about this mysterious tablet. But forget ancient curses for a moment. Modern science offers a different possibility. What if there was something dangerous in the tomb, but not supernatural? When the tomb was sealed over 3,000 years ago, organic materials were sealed inside. Food offerings, flowers, wood, fabric. In the sealed, humid environment, mold grew. Specifically, potentially toxic molds like Aspergillus. Aspergillus can cause aspergillosis, a serious lung infection. Symptoms include fever, cough, chest pain, breathing difficulties. In severe cases, it can be fatal. When Carter and his team opened the tomb, they breathed air filled with millennia of accumulated mold spores. Could this have caused the deaths? It's plausible. Carnarvon was in poor health, his lungs already compromised. Exposure to toxic mold could have contributed to his pneumonia and death. But there are problems. Many who entered the tomb didn't get sick. The deaths occurred at different times, some years later, and most deaths don't match aspergillosis symptoms. Ancient Egyptians used various chemicals in mummification and preservation. Natron salts, resins, oils, and potentially toxic substances. Some contained arsenic, others had mercury compounds. Still others used plant extracts that could be poisonous. In a sealed tomb, these could vaporize or create toxic dust. Opening the tomb could release concentrated amounts. Remember Arthur Mace? Arsenic poisoning was suspected. Could he have been exposed to arsenic-containing materials in the tomb? But again, most people exposed didn't get sick. And chemical analysis of tomb air, done later, didn't find dangerous levels of anything. Modern microbiologists have found that bacteria can survive thousands of years in sealed tombs, entering a dormant state. When exposed to air and moisture, they can become active again. Some of these ancient bacteria could be pathogenic. Theoretically, handling mummies or breathing tomb air could expose archaeologists to ancient pathogens their immune systems had never encountered. But there's no evidence this actually happened at Tutankhamun's tomb. No unusual pathogens were identified. No disease outbreak occurred. One of the more exotic theories suggests the ancient Egyptians somehow incorporated radioactive materials into tomb seals as a protective measure. Certain rocks naturally contain uranium or thorium. If ancient Egyptians used these rocks, sealed tombs could have elevated radiation levels. Remember Sir Archibald Reed, the radiologist who X-rayed the mummy? He died mysteriously. Radiation poisoning. But this is pure speculation. No elevated radiation has ever been measured in the tomb. No evidence suggests ancient Egyptians knew about or used radioactive materials. The scientific consensus is clear. There's no evidence of supernatural curses. There's no evidence of biological or chemical hazards that caused the deaths. The deaths, tragic as they were, fall within normal statistical expectations for people of that era and circumstances. The curse is mythology, created by media, sustained by coincidence, amplified by human psychology's love of mystery. But there's still something unexplained, something the pure skeptics can't quite account for. Even if we dismiss the curse as superstition, certain elements of the story remain genuinely strange. Yes, people die. Yes, the death rate wasn't unusual, but the timing was remarkable. Lord Carnarvon, the financial backer, dead 5 months after opening. Arthur Mace, who helped break the seal, dead within years. Richard Bethel, Carter's personal secretary, who handled the artifacts daily, dead at 35. The people who had the most direct, intimate contact with the tomb died soonest. The farther removed from the discovery, the less likely the death. This could be pure coincidence, but it's a suspicious pattern. The story of Cairo's lights going out at Carnarvon's death. Most dismiss this as legend, but contemporaneous accounts do mention a power failure in Cairo that night. Cairo's electrical system was unreliable in 1923. Power failures were common. The timing, though, at the exact moment of death. That strains coincidence, unless it's exaggerated memory, backward causation bias, or simple fabrication. We'll never know for sure. No official records exist of the power failure's exact timing. The story of Carnarvon's dog howling and dying at the moment of his master's death, back in England, is even more difficult to verify. We have only second-hand accounts. Servants reported it, but no contemporary documentation exists. Dogs are sensitive to their owners' routines and emotional states. They can sense when something is wrong. But sensing death thousands of miles away? That ventures into paranormal territory. Probably legend, but persistent legend told by multiple sources. Howard Carter kept a pet canary for company during excavation. Egyptians working on the dig considered it a good luck symbol. Shortly after opening the tomb, a cobra entered Carter's house and killed the canary. A cobra, the symbol of Egyptian royalty, the symbol on the pharaoh's crown. Egyptian workers saw this as an omen. The pharaoh was sending a warning. The royal cobra was striking back. Carter saw it as unfortunate coincidence. Egypt has cobras. Canaries in cages attract snakes. These things happen, but the symbolism is undeniably striking. Lord Westbury, whose son Richard Bethel died mysteriously, jumped to his death from his London apartment in 1930. His suicide note reportedly mentioned that he couldn't stand the horror anymore. Some interpret this as reference to the curse. More likely, he was simply a father devastated by his son's untimely death, consumed by grief, seeing no reason to continue living. The actual note, if it existed in the form reported, has never been found or verified. At Lord Westbury's funeral, the hearse carrying his body struck and killed a young boy on the way to the cemetery. The boy, tragically, was 8 years old, the same age Tutankhamun was when he became pharaoh. Now, this is almost certainly pure coincidence. Tragic, horrible coincidence. But it's the kind of detail that feeds curse mythology. Our brains are wired to find patterns, to connect events, to create narratives. When tragedy follows tragedy, we want them to mean something. In the late 1920s, a British museum attempted to acquire certain artifacts from Tutankhamun's tomb. Several people involved in the acquisition process died suddenly. A curator, a museum director, an artifact handler, all within months. These deaths are documented but never adequately explained. Natural causes, presumably. But the clustering is unusual. Even in modern times, people who work with Tutankhamun's artifacts report strange experiences. Museum workers describe feeling watched. Conservators report inexplicable equipment failures when working on certain pieces. Security guards mention cold spots and unusual sounds. Psychologists would call this suggestion and expectation. You're working with cursed artifacts. Your mind creates experiences consistent with that belief. But the experiences are real to those having them. Subjective, yes. but consistently reported across decades and cultures. In 1972, for the 50th anniversary of the discovery, a Tutankhamun exhibition travelled to London. Dr. Gamal Mehrez, director of Egyptian antiquities, publicly dismissed the curse as superstition. "I've been involved with Egyptian tombs for 20 years, he said, and I'm still alive." He died weeks later, unexpectedly, cause unclear. Richard Adamson, who had guarded the tomb and survived, also dismissed the curse publicly in 1972. "I slept in the tomb for 7 years and nothing happened to me." His wife died shortly after he made that statement. Coincidence? Almost certainly. But pattern recognition makes it feel significant. In 2002, researchers conducted a comprehensive statistical analysis of everyone connected to the tomb. Their conclusion: no unusual death rate. Life expectancy for tomb entrants matched the general population. But a subset analysis found something interesting. Among those present at the actual opening of the burial chamber on February 16, 1923, the death rate in the following 3 years was higher than expected. Small sample size. Could be statistical noise, but it's there in the data. Here's a psychological possibility. Belief in the curse could have caused some deaths. If you believe you're cursed, the stress and anxiety could literally kill you. Elevated blood pressure, weakened immune system, poor health decisions. Psychosomatic death is documented. People who believe they're cursed sometimes die without clear medical cause. The mind is powerful. In the 1920s, when medicine was less advanced and belief in curses more common, this could have been a real factor. In this sense, the curse works, if you believe it works. Not because of ancient magic, but because of modern psychology. To truly understand whether the curse could be real, we need to understand what ancient Egyptians actually believed about death, the afterlife, and protecting tombs. Ancient Egyptians believed humans had multiple souls. The Ka, life force, the Ba, personality. Both needed to survive death for a person to achieve immortality. The tomb wasn't just a burial place. It was the deceased's eternal home. The Ka would return to the body, which is why mummification preserved it. Protecting this eternal home was paramount. Tomb robbery didn't just steal treasure. It destroyed the deceased's chance at eternal life. Egyptians used multiple methods to protect tombs. Physical, hidden entrances, false chambers, concealed doors, architectural tricks to confuse robbers, magical, amulets, protective spells, guardian statues, images of deities to ward off intruders. And yes, curse inscriptions. Not at every tomb, but at many. The tomb of Ankhtify contains, "Any ruler who shall do evil or wickedness to this coffin, may Hemen not accept any goods he offers." From the tomb of Kentika, "As for all men who shall enter this my tomb, there will be judgment against them by the great God." From Uriwa's tomb, "He shall be judged for it by the great God. I shall seize his neck like a bird." These weren't idle threats. Ancient Egyptians genuinely believed divine judgment would strike tomb violators. How did ancient Egyptians think curses worked? Through Heka, magical power. the same force that created the universe, the same power priests wielded in rituals. Words had power. Speaking or writing a curse made it real. The curse became part of the fabric of reality. Gods enforced the curses. Anubis, guardian of the dead. Osiris, judge of the underworld. Sekhmet, bringer of plague. And crucially, the curse persisted after the person who wrote it died. It was eternal, like the tomb itself. Tutankhamun died young, around age 19. He would have been raised with these beliefs. His tomb was prepared hastily after his unexpected death. There wasn't time for elaborate protective measures, but standard protections were included. Protective deities, guardian statues, the 4 goddesses embracing his canopic shrine. If he'd lived longer and prepared a proper tomb, it likely would have had more protections, possibly including curse inscriptions. Curse traditions exist in virtually every ancient culture: Egypt, Mesopotamia, Greece, Rome, China, Mesoamerica. The desire to protect burial sites is human universal. The belief that supernatural forces can enforce that protection is equally universal. Does universal belief make curses real? From a materialist perspective, no. From an anthropological perspective, the belief itself is real and has real effects. Here's a practical perspective. Curse inscriptions were warning systems. Most ancient Egyptians were illiterate, but they knew certain symbols meant danger, divine protection, forbidden. Curse inscriptions served as psychological deterrents, like "beware of dog" signs. They didn't have to work magically. They just had to make potential robbers think twice. And they often worked. Many tombs remained undisturbed for centuries, partly because of fear of divine retribution. Egyptian priests were the magical specialists. They knew spells, rituals, protective formulas. Much of their knowledge was secret, passed down through initiation. We don't have access to all their texts. Could they have incorporated protections we don't understand? Used techniques we've lost? It's possible, but unprovable, and probably more romantic than realistic. So, where does modern scholarship stand on the curse? And has anything changed our understanding? The overwhelming consensus among Egyptologists is clear. The curse of Tutankhamun is fiction. Dr. Zahi Hawass, former Egyptian Minister of Antiquities, has repeatedly stated, "The curse is nonsense. It was invented by newspapers to sell copies." Dr. Joyce Tildesley, British Egyptologist. The curse is one of the most successful media creations of the 20th century. It has no basis in fact. Academic papers examining the curse uniformly conclude it's mythology created by coincidence, media manipulation, and human psychology. Interestingly, Lloyd's of London, the insurance company, studied the curse in the 1970s. They analysed mortality rates for people who'd handled Tutankhamun artifacts. Their conclusion: no unusual risk. They continued insuring exhibitions without curse-related premiums. From a cold business perspective, if the curse were real, it would show up in actuarial tables. It doesn't. Modern archaeologists work in Egyptian tombs daily. They open sealed chambers. They handle mummies. They catalogue artifacts. And they don't die mysteriously. No unusual mortality rate, no curse striking them down. This should settle the question. Modern evidence overwhelmingly refutes the curse. Yet the belief persists. Why do people still believe in the curse? Several psychological factors. Confirmation bias. We remember evidence supporting our beliefs and forget contradicting evidence. Deaths get remembered. Survivals get forgotten. Pattern recognition. Humans are wired to see patterns even in random data. Random deaths seem patterned if we're looking for a curse. Narrative appeal. The curse story is compelling. It's dramatic. It has heroes, villains, mystery, death. It's more interesting than people died of natural causes. Cultural persistence. The curse is now part of popular culture. Movies, books, TV shows keep it alive. Each generation learns about it. Exotic appeal. Ancient Egypt seems mysterious and magical. Western audiences project supernatural powers onto it. Here's an uncomfortable truth. The curse sells tickets. Museums hosting Tutankhamun exhibitions often play up the curse angle in marketing. See the cursed treasures. Dare you face the Pharaoh's revenge? Exhibitions draw huge crowds, partly because of curse fascination. The Egyptian government benefits financially from curse mythology. There's a financial incentive to not completely debunk the curse. Let the mystery simmer. Let people wonder. It's good for business. Hollywood has made billions from mummy curse movies. The Mummy series, 1932, 1999, 2017, all feature cursed pharaohs and vengeful mummies. Countless books, documentaries, and TV shows explore the curse. Each generation gets new curse content. Fictional curses influence belief in real ones. People conflate entertainment with history. The line blurs. Modern scholars also examine the curse through a post-colonial lens. British archaeologists excavating in colonized Egypt, taking treasures back to British museums. The curse narrative lets Egyptians reclaim some power. You took our treasures, now face our revenge. The curse becomes resistance mythology. In modern Egypt, the curse is sometimes invoked as a source of national pride. Our ancestors were so powerful. Their curses still work. The curse's persistence involves complex cultural dynamics beyond just belief in the supernatural. Belief in the curse also reflects scientific literacy levels. People who understand probability and statistics are less likely to see random deaths as meaningful patterns. People educated about archaeology and ancient cultures understand that tomb curses, while real as beliefs, don't work supernaturally. But even with rising education levels, the curse persists. Because at some level, people want to believe. Humans are fascinated by mystery, by the unexplained, by the possibility that the world is stranger than it seems. The curse represents possibility. The possibility that ancient wisdom exists we don't understand. That death isn't final. That justice transcends time. The rational explanation, coincidence, media manipulation, normal mortality, is less satisfying emotionally, even if it's more accurate factually. Sometimes we prefer good stories to true stories. So, the curse of Tutankhamun. Real or coincidence? We've examined the evidence, the deaths, the survivors, the statistics, the ancient beliefs, the modern science, the psychology, the culture. The skeptical case is strong. No curse inscription existed at the tomb. The death rate wasn't unusual. Most curse victims died of normal causes. Survivors outnumbered victims. Modern science finds no supernatural mechanism, but the believer's case has elements. The timing of some deaths was suspicious. The clustering around the actual opening, the symbolic coincidences, the persistence of the belief across cultures and centuries. If we're being honest, based purely on evidence, the curse wasn't real. Not in a supernatural sense. The deaths were coincidental. Tragic, yes. Clustered in ways that seemed meaningful, yes. But ultimately explained by natural causes, media manipulation, and probability. Lord Carnarvon died of blood poisoning from an infected mosquito bite in an era before antibiotics. That's not mysterious. It's simply 1923. Arthur Mace was already in poor health. The tomb work stressed him, but it didn't curse him. Howard Carter, who spent more time in the tomb than anyone, lived 17 more years and died of lymphoma at 64. If a curse existed, it failed spectacularly with him. But the power of belief is real. If people believed they were cursed, that belief could have harmed them through stress, anxiety, and psychosomatic effects. The media curse was real. Newspapers created a narrative that shaped public perception, influenced archaeology, and changed history. The cultural curse persists. 100 years later, we still talk about it. It still influences how people view ancient Egypt. In that sense, the curse worked. Not through ancient magic, but through modern media and human psychology. Here's what I believe the real curse is. The curse of sensationalism over scholarship. Media preferring drama to truth. The curse of mystery over knowledge. People wanting magic more than science. The curse of entertainment over education. We've learned more about fictional curses than real Egyptian beliefs. The real curse is that Tutankhamun himself gets lost in curse mythology. He was a child who became pharaoh at age 9, who ruled during a tumultuous time in Egyptian history, who tried to restore traditional religion after his father's radical reforms. He died around age 19, possibly from malaria, possibly from injuries, possibly from genetic diseases caused by royal inbreeding. His tomb was modest compared to other pharaohs. He wasn't particularly important in his time. But his tomb survived intact when greater pharaohs' tombs were robbed. And that accident of preservation made him the most famous pharaoh of all. He deserves to be remembered for his history, not for a curse he didn't create. What can we learn from the curse of Tutankhamun? Question sensational claims, examine evidence, understand statistics and probability, but also appreciate mystery. Ancient Egypt is genuinely fascinating. We don't need to add curses to make it interesting. Respect ancient beliefs without treating them as supernatural reality. Egyptians believed in tomb protection. That's culturally important. But it doesn't mean curses literally work. Distinguish fact from fiction, even when fiction is more entertaining. The curse of Tutankhamun wasn't real. But it wasn't completely fake either. It was a creation, a perfect storm of coincidence, media manipulation, psychological suggestion, cultural fascination, and human need for meaning. It tells us as much about ourselves as about ancient Egypt, about what we fear, what we believe, what stories we need. Meanwhile, The boy king rests peacefully in the Valley of the Kings, his treasures displayed in museums, his story told around the world. No curse needed. His fame is immortality enough. The tomb is open, the secrets revealed. The curse was always in our imagination. Thank you for watching Pharaoh's Legacy. If this investigation into one of history's most famous supernatural legends opened your eyes to the truth behind the mythology, subscribe and hit that notification bell. Next time, we're uncovering the brutal reality of ancient Egyptian mummification, what they actually did to bodies, the gruesome process, the sacred rituals. It's not what Hollywood shows you. Do you think the curse was real, or just media hype? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if you have personal experiences with Egyptian artifacts, we want to hear about them. Your support makes videos like this possible. Ancient Egypt is mysterious enough without adding fake curses. Join us as we separate fact from fiction. Until next time, stay curious, stay skeptical, and stay safe from imaginary curses.